And away we go. Welcome back, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you happen to be in the world today. It is 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time where I am sitting, middle of nowhere, Georgia, double secret location on double secret probation, as it were, broadcasting live at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Coffee Talk on YouTube, and that is at Coffee Talk Live if you're looking for it. Or you can also actually find me, because somebody had asked the other day, at Coffee Talk Chat on Twitter or X, whatever the hell you want to call it, as well as simultaneously broadcasting on Prepper University on YouTube. And you can find me on Fistful of Radio. There it is, fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta Monday through Thursday at 4 and Friday at noon. And that is also Eastern Standard Time. As I sit here surrounded by cats, you saw, that's actually, for those of you keeping track, that right there is Mama Cat, and we are calling her Granny Smith. She still can't walk right, but we can't get her into the vet for another week yet, unfortunately. We got her scheduled, and we've got the kittens scheduled as well as we move along with that. And as always, I read through as many of the comments as I can to acknowledge people that chose to join the live portion of the discussion, as well as giving the people who are listening and not able to watch the opportunity to understand the conversation, so it doesn't sound like I'm just talking to myself. Just looking at some of the people that are here. D'Lo is in here already. Zane is here. Helter, Dragon. Urban is here from Alberta, he says. Doc Galt is here. He says, tuning in before YouTube throws an ad in my face at the beginning of your program. It happens every time. Wow. Bingo says, howdy. Boogers is here. Keisha is here. Monkey is here. Says that he'll be listening via Bluetooth. Johnny is here. He made it. Fluke Man. As people are starting to pile in and we get ready to delve into news stories of the day. News stories of the day. Various snippets of media from here, there, and everywhere as we pick it over. Preparedness is here. Thanks for joining us this afternoon as we start to wind up for the hour. And a couple of things here. There's NA is here. Thanks for joining us today. This came up yesterday, and it's something, I believe it was... where did they go? I lost them. Was it Urban? Are you the one that brought this up about the Zelensky speech in Canada? And you couldn't find much about it, although it's starting to pop up in feeds now. It's starting to come up now because a lot more has ballooned out of this. And so we'll take a look at this. And this comes from Bloomberg. It says, Nazi veteran lauded at Zelensky's speech and embarrasses Trudeau. Embarrasses Trudeau. I'll read this article and I'll tell you a couple other things that are going on that I'm not sure are in this article. It says, Canadian lawmakers are demanding that a parliamentary official resign after he invited a Ukrainian war veteran who fought in a Nazi unit to be featured guest during President Voldemort, I'm calling him Voldemort, Zelensky's speech last week. The episode is deeply embarrassing to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, though his staff say the government had no knowledge about the invitation ahead of time, and neither did the Ukrainian delegation. You know, I'm going to stop right there, and I'm going to make a point. Anytime any president is going to be going to any event, anyone who's going to be there is vetted first. That's why you remember that that nitwit South Korean guy or whoever he was that did that really crappy song Gangnam Style, and it was really viral on YouTube. And he had an invitation to the White House, but then when he was on his way, the Secret Service said, don't come here. Because they researched him, because they research every guest, and said, you've made a lot of anti-American rhetoric, and so we don't want you here. They do the same thing in Canada. So you're going to tell me this guy just slipped through the cracks and nobody researched him? he sure got recognized when he was on camera, and people were like, hey, wait a minute, that guy. As we read back into this, anyways, the guest, Jaroslav Hunka, was invited to the House of Commons by its presiding officer, Speaker Anthony Rota, who introduced the 98-year-old after Zelensky's speech on Friday. Rota, a liberal lawmaker, described him as a Ukrainian/Canadian Second World War veteran who, quote, fought for Ukrainian independence against the Russians. Yeah, he fought against the Russians because the Russians were an ally against the Axis during World War II. So, of course, he fought the Russians. The entire chamber gave Hunka a standing ovations, including Trudeau and the Ukrainian president, who raised his fist. Black power. Over the weekend, Jewish organizations in Canada demanded an apology for Hunka's invitation, pointing to his history serving with the 1st Galician Division, a unit of the German military's Waffen SS units. The timing of the incident is highly unfortunate for Zelensky. On the margins of the United Nations annual gathering, he fell out with Poland, his ally and neighbor, and his visit to Washington was a marked contrast from last year's warm welcome, when support for his efforts to repel Russia out of Ukraine was far more forthcoming. Now, what's come out of this so far is the Speaker of the House of Commons has publicly apologized now and said, gee, I'm sorry, I didn't know who this guy was. I didn't realize. I just thought he was some old World War II veteran. My bad. Paraphrasing, of course, because I'm sure he would have been a lot more prim and proper than that. But what's also come out of this is Poland turning up the heat and saying, hey, this guy's on our list. We want him. So they want to extradite this Hunka to Poland to put him on trial, which is political bullshit. He's 98 years old. Does he even know where he is? I thought about that because not too long ago, like sometime last year, there was some like Gestapo agent or something that they caught up with who's like damn near 100 years old also, that they put on some trial and sentenced him to jail. And it's like he's in a wheelchair. He's got dementia. He doesn't know where the hell he is or what he's doing. He'll probably get better care in jail. There's a point where there is no point anymore, except for political notches in your belt. As we catch up here, Urban says, yes, the scandal is slowly beginning to float up like pond scum. Trudeau did not apologize. And I find it hard to believe that he just slipped through and wasn't properly vetted. They didn't care. They found the oldest World War II veteran they could get their hands on and slipped up is what happened. D-Lo says, 2 ads, hate it. Yeah, well, hopefully I'll get some commission from them anyways before they pull them down and give me a yellow strike. And we'll see what happens. You know they love to do that to me. Bingo said, embarrassed my ass. You know damn well he took that Nazi home with him. You think so? Took him to dinner, brought him to Red Lobster. And Tom is here. Says, hello, David and company. Helter says, the Canucks gave a veteran of the Waffen SS standing ovation in Parliament. Their country is imploding right before our eyes. And Doc says, someone black swanned Trudeau. Yeah. And Dragon says, the U.S. also welcomed thousands of Nazis, including some that were implicated in serious war crimes, because they thought they would be valuable in the Cold War. Yeah, for information, or they were scientists or something. They thought they could squeeze something out of them. Dragon says they lived long and happy, unscrutinized lives and never got the punishment they deserved. That's most war criminals. And Armored says the collective West is weaponizing laws and treaties to find and arrest or kill political dissidents. And Y is here, and it says they want to do what they say you aren't able to do. Honor a Nazi is a good one, or honoring a Nazi. And I'm mispronouncing that on purpose because of ScrewTube. And he says, rules for thee, none for me. Yeah, that's typically how government works. And Urban says, Hunka knows exactly where he is, circling power and well-connected. On his blog, he often talked about his experiences and his years with the Waffen SS were the best of his life. Wow, that's incredible. But I wanted to catch people up on that to demonstrate for you here that it is starting to surface. Canada is in a position of power now over its media, whereby it can control its media especially and particularly and especially social media, and they're covering up a lot of things or misdirecting things. We went through this last week with the million-person march for our children that happened on the 20th, and you can barely find anything on it. And when you do find something, it's way played down. Oh, 100 people showed up here, 100 people showed up there, and met with resistance of 1,000 counter protesters, thousands and thousands of counter protesters. But apparently it was the other way around. But that's not what's being reported. So, yeah, dangerous times, ladies and gentlemen, dangerous times. And while we're on the subject of Poland, because Poland now claims they want this guy. And again, it's all political. A couple more comments, and I'll show you something else from Poland that'll make your blood curdle. Cruising says, meanwhile, Alphabet activists want you to believe that the Save Our Children March in Ottawa was outnumbered by counter protesters. Yeah, that's what I was saying. But you can't find footage of the event. Exactly, because it's being suppressed. And Canada is in a position to do that now. So much for Canadian democracy. And Flukeman said Zelensky claims they killed the general, but the Russians deny it. Seen the general on a pre-recorded video saying he's still alive, but not surprised. No one interviewed him yet. Who knows what the truth is? Who cares? Kill the general, they get another one. It doesn't really change anything. As we move on here to the next subject, and we are still on Poland, but this is something entirely different. This comes from the San Diego Union Tribune. U.S. offers Poland a rare loan of $2 billion to modernize its military. We're going to give Poland money, and there's sweet old, dear old, lovable old Uncle Joe. He's not wearing a blue tie. How did that happen? There's a mistake there. There's a mistake. See the female? I think that's a female. The Biden administration announced Monday that it is offering a $2 billion loan to Poland, which has been a hub for weapons going into Ukraine to support the allies' defense modernization. The State Department said in a statement that Poland is a stalwart ally of the U.S., whose security is vital to the collective defense of NATO's eastern flank, and that such funding is reserved for Washington's most important security partners. The U.S. government is also providing Warsaw up to $60 million for the cost of the loan in foreign military financing, which would support urgent procurements of defense articles and services from the United States. The State Department said the $60 million is a loan subsidy meant to ensure that Warsaw can secure favorable terms for the loan. So you're paying the interest on their loan. That's cute. Poland has been a staunch supporter of Ukraine since Russia's full-scale invasion of the country, handing over large numbers of its own tanks, fighter jets, and other equipment. It has also been a hub for most of the Western weapons going into the Ukraine. It has been undergoing a process of modernization to replace what it gave away, much of which was based on old Soviet technology, putting in orders with the U.S. and South Korean defense companies. Recently, the Polish-Ukrainian relationship has seen strains due to a trade dispute centered on Ukrainian grain entering the Polish market, driving down the prices Polish farmers can get. Amid the spat, Poland's Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki said his country was no longer sending any more weapons to Ukraine. So this is a bribe. Poland can't afford to pay back a loan like that. And we can't afford to give it. We don't have $2 billion to spare. And Biden is throwing money all over the damn planet. We don't have it to spare, and Poland can't pay it back. This is a bribe because Ukraine and Poland are having strained relations at this point. And Poland's like, we're sick of dealing with Ukraine. Give us a damn break. Oh, well, here comes some money. Here comes some money to, quote, upgrade your military. Yeah, that's what's going on. As I catch up a few more comments here. From Armored, he says, democracy is the god that failed. Yeah, apparently. Cruising says, I bet a Russian general pays better than being a teacher and probably has fewer hoops to jump through. Doc says more proxy war money. Preparedness says strange. Isn't the NATO's 2% GDP spending rule supposed to be for modernization? Yeah, you would think so. Armored says you think Ukraine will be divided and annexed by different countries. Well, I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of this, a piece ends up going back to Russia. Helter says a good chunk of the loan will be spent on U.S. military gear while the U.S. gets to earn interest on it. Yeah, but they can't pay it back. They'll never pay that back. Preparedness says going full circle, buying off the shelf procured gear ensures the money goes back into American GDP. Rare Fruit says on the ethical and honest State Department. Oh, the ethical and honest State Department. Of course, they would never lie to you. They're fully transparent. Armid says U.S. earns interest and pays no taxes. What a deal. And Rare Fruit says democracy is a slave cult. Yeah. Well, I mean, they love saying democracy and they love telling you they're bringing democracy to the rest of the world. Oh, we're bringing democracy to your country. We're bringing democracy to Afghanistan. We're bringing democracy to Iraq. They don't want it. We don't want it. We don't want the democracy that they're offering us. What democracy? Where is it? I can't find it. And I thought we were a constitutional republic. What the hell happened? Stop telling me about democracy. I don't care. I don't care. I don't trust it. It's just talking points. They don't mean it. They don't stick to it. And when they talk about honesty and transparency, they mean everybody but them. I don't trust them. Fluke Man says, doesn't China owe the U.S. 1.15 billion, but they haven't been making regular payments as they should have done? I think it's more than that, and it's been quite a while since they've made a payment. Long time. So, and they can afford it. Armid says, are Halloween pumpkins Biden-flated? Yeah, probably. The price went up. Keisha says, isn't the U.S. talking about a government shutdown? They've been talking about, but I mean, that's since Obama. That has, because that's something that historically has happened many, many times, threat of a shutdown. But since Obama, it has escalated to the point where we're hearing it 3-4 times a year now, almost. Because that threat came up, 3-4 months ago already. And it keeps getting closer and closer. Oh, we'll have to shut down. We'll have to shut down. Basically threatening you or making you feel like you need them so that they can acquire more tax money, come up with more regulations. They got to get the money from somewhere. And they're not going to manage the money they already have properly because who cares? We can always get more is the attitude. It's easy when you're spending someone else's money. Y says democracy requires an honest and educated public. Well, honest at least. Because you can be not very well educated and still have some good common sense and still be honest. But we don't even have that. We don't have honest or common sense anymore. Used to be even somebody who was completely illiterate. You couldn't fool too easily. You know what I mean? Not anymore. And it's incredible the way that works. Armin says U.S. government never really shuts down. It's impossible. Yeah, they just make the threat. They love making that threat to make you feel helpless. And it's absolutely ridiculous. And to make matters worse, and since we just ran over Biden here really quickly, we'll bring him back on the screen again. Because I know you all love seeing Biden so much because he's just everybody's lovable old huggable uncle. He's like a big teddy bear. Urban says even the original democracy in Athens, 5th century, wasn't for everyone. Women couldn't vote, nor children, nor family-owned slaves, which were a chunk of the population. Only a quarter could vote. This comes from ABC News. Oh, Arakel made it. Thanks for joining us today, Arakel. ABC News, let's keep going. Biden joins striking auto workers on the picket line. Okay. Keep sticking your nose in it. People are striking all over the damn place. Now people from the video game industry are trying to strike. Have you heard that one? Getting into the article, President Joe Biden joined the United Auto Workers picket line Tuesday in his strongest show of support yet for the union members striking against General Motors, Ford, and Stellantis because he wants the plants to shut down. He wants the jobs to go overseas. He wants more automation. He wants division for the people. This is further dividing the country. the automakers, however much you think they're making, look up Ford's stock. I've looked it up recently. It's a junk stock. It's a junk stock that's being publicly traded. It's not worth much. I think a junk stock is anything lower than $28 a share, correct? Biden donning a UAW baseball cap used a bullhorn to address members striking outside General Motors Willow Run Redistribution Center in Belleville, Michigan. He still hasn't been down to the train wreck, though, or the border, has he? The fact of the matter is that you guys, UAW, you saved the automobile industry back in 2008 and before, Biden said, made a lot of sacrifices, gave up a lot, and the companies were in trouble, but now they're doing incredibly well, and guess what? You should be doing incredibly well, too. He has no business being out there. And not that he really was. I bet you he was there for 2 minutes for a photo op. I'm going to look that up real quick right now. I'm going to look up the Ford Motor stock price. Oh, wow, it's worse than I thought. Hold on a second. I'm going to show you. Just in case you thought I didn't know what I was talking about, I want to share this with you. Here we go. Share the screen. Real quick. Here's the stock ticker for Ford. Does it look like they're doing terribly well to you? How does that look? Now, when I looked, the last time I checked, that was actually about a year ago, if I'm being honest. So let me expand this to the year average. Okay, the year's high was 1535. Maybe I was thinking of another one. One of the automakers was like $24. This is a junk stock at 1238 at the current trading. I mean, that's like a hair closer to bankruptcy. If they drop to like 6 or 4, I mean, that's teetering on bankruptcy. So they're doing better, and you want to strike against them, they're suffering. Oh, man. Eric Hill says, any updates on the government shutdown? Could this be the serious one? It's never serious. It's never serious. Tom says he's not a cop. Booger says, yeah, the clown is going to help the auto workers like he did the railroad. What a freaking joke. Rare says, everything seems to be controlled opposition these days. Almost nothing is organic. That's true. Where are we here? Y says, Tesla's Optimus bot will be a harsh wake-up call for unions. And Dragon says, Biden will hand over billions more after the strike is over to the major car manufacturers again. And the reason that there was that, what he was talking about in 2008 was a restructuring because the automakers were going bankrupt. They still haven't recovered from that. Let's take a look at General Motors stock ticker. General Motors, okay, they're doing, maybe that's the one I was thinking of. 3230 is the current, and we'll look at it for the year. Their highest point was 42.95. That's better than a junk stock, but it's still not that great. That's still not that great. And I'll show you what I'm talking about here. There's GameStop, 1707. Remember when they ballooned to, don't step on the keyboard, honey. Oh, no. Don't do that to me. Remember when they ballooned to $440 because people were manipulating the stock trade? And Eric Hell says, check Stellantis, Chrysler Jeep. Okay, let's look up Stellantis. See how Stellantis is doing. There it is. 1876. It's another junk stock. They're not doing well at all. General Motors, actually, this is their highest that they've been in quite a while. The highest rating here is what was it? 2055 is the highest they've been in a year. So they're doing a little better, but they're still a junk stock. So there you are. There you are. They're not doing well at all. General Motors is doing better than the other two, but at $32 a stock, that's not good. That's not good. I'll show you a good stock. Hold on a second. See, that's when a stock looks healthy. Like 126.44, and that's not even their high for Amazon, that is. Doc says, I'm waiting for another one of those stories. When I was in Scranton, I worked the assembly line with a corn pop, and he was a bad dude. Urban says Biden should immediately give at least $1 billion for Ford factories to build in Ukraine next to all the C laboratories. No kidding. No kidding. Y says, watching the big brands fumble EVs like they're all making me think they won't be around for more than 5 to 10 years, or consolidation into a mega corp. And Eric L wants to see Walmart now. Okay, everybody wants to see the stock tickers now. All right, we'll do one more. We'll do Walmart. Walmart stock current 162.96. See, that's a healthy stock. That's a healthy stock. See, now if Ford looked like that, I could say, okay, give your laborers a little bit more money, but that money's not there. That money's not there. When you fall below $27, $28, 20. You want to see Anheuser-Busch? Urban wants to see Anheuser-Busch now, and Fluke Man says Amazon has the upper hand and everything. Hey, remember they started off selling books. Google started off with a bunch of hard drives linked together. And Bingo says, didn't you know Biden invented the automobile? I know, and the light bulb, right? You guys keep sucking me into this. All right, let's take a look at Anheuser-Busch. Oh, it's already coming up. I guess a lot of people are looking for this. 54.28. That's not bad. And their high for the year was 66.73. So 54.28 is not that bad, actually. It could be a lot worse. And look where they were September last year. This time last year, it was lower at 45. That's why I was saying that because of their ability to shift, okay, Bud Light's not selling. We've got these other brands. They sold, I think, 7 of their IPs of the IP beers. They've been able to stay regular. They've been able to maintain regularity. Y says Al Gore does all the inventing. No, Biden does all the inventing. He travels back in time. Keisha says, I can't fault Jeff Bezos for his money. He had a good idea and ran with it. Yeah, I can't be mad at anybody who, and they pick on like even, what's his name? Elon Musk. Oh, well, his family had money and blah, blah, blah. And so what? So what? He made it work. Yeah, Tesla's another very healthy stock, as Eric L was asking here before we move on to the next subject. And I'll let you take a look at that really quick. 243.79 is where it is currently. 243. So that's a healthy stock. These guys should be getting paid. And their high is in the 293 range, 293 and change. And it looks like it's peaked twice in the last year. 2 good peaks, but that's not a bad position. 243.79 for a share. Now here's something I wanted to share with you, and you'll know why when you see it. Hold on. If I found the right subject matter. Is this the one that I'm looking for? Try to move it along here. I have to wait on it sometimes. Let me pause that. Pause. This is important. I'm going to share this with you, and it should have audio. Let me pull this up. It popped up in the news feeds this morning, but it's in the news feeds and local news. You're not going to see this. You're not going to see this anywhere else, or you'll have a hard time finding it. This is video footage of an attack taking place in broad daylight in one of the safer neighborhoods in Chicago. See this guy? Here he comes, eating his donut. Wham. Welcome to Chicago, everybody.
What the fuck?
Broad daylight in a, quote, better Chicago neighborhood. And it's probably a bag full of laundry. Now, two things about this. Number one, zero situational awareness. Zero. He should have at least heard someone coming behind him. And unless he had headphones in, I would never walk around in city streets with headphones on, number one. I don't see headphones. He could have earbuds. I don't know. Never do that, folks. Okay? Never just have music playing in your ears and you're out and about like that. I don't know that that's the case, but zero situational awareness. He didn't realize anything was going on right up until he got sucker punched. He should have heard someone coming, and he should routinely check behind him walking in an urban area like that, walking in just regular city streets. At the very least, he could have started running, and even if that didn't stop them from mugging him, he would have at least been out in the open instead of laying in an alley for God knows how long. Second of all, this is getting no coverage. And there's several attack videos like this in upscale Chicago neighborhoods. Broad daylight attacks right in front of people's homes, right in front of gated communities, so on and so forth. If the roles were reversed and that was a black guy and those were two white muggers, it would be international news. You wouldn't be able to play it down. Al Sharpton would be down there protesting. You know what I mean? Let's see. Catching up a couple of comments here. Tesla said, Monkey says Tesla doesn't have a UAW in there. No kidding. Zane says looks like a stabbing. Could be. Keisha says, as a single female, I don't think I would live in Chicago. I don't blame you. Urban says that's disturbing but not surprising. Y says stay strapped, friends. No kidding. If he would have, I mean, with no situational awareness, he wouldn't have had a chance. If he had a gun, he would have lost it. When he was trying to fumble to get it out, right, he went down with the first strike. He just wasn't knocked out. They would have gotten his gun from him, and he would have been shot, or at least the gun would have been stolen. No point in carrying if you don't know what you're doing. Again, every once in a while, look around, glance behind you, every couple of minutes, even something. And if I heard footsteps behind me, I definitely would have looked. He didn't know what was going on. But again, if this was reversed, international news. They'd have been talking about it in the UK. Another black man was violently assaulted in the United States. Was it racially motivated? Arakel says, very sad, ugly reality. Michael says, and only the government can have extended gun magazines. Yeah, that's how they want it. Zane says, never walk down an alley that is vacant. Eric Hill says, probably earbuds in his ears. That could be. And Rare Fruit says, newsflash, bad people are everywhere, especially there. Yeah. Preparedness said, not safe these days to even be on your own, always in pairs now, hands on a weapon and max out retaliation. No kidding. Tom says he's there with, I don't know what he's talking about. I don't know what he's talking about. Helter says Mayor Johnson and Kim Foxx applauded these men for their efforts in reaching out across the racial divide, but see opportunities for improvement. Yeah. Where are we here? Doc says, I have a friend. His name is Glock. He has 16 10 millimeter friends. And Zane says, very true. The gun isn't a get out of mugging free card. Yeah. And also, if he did get the drop on him with a pistol, you've got to have the nerve to follow through. You've got to have the nerve, because I wouldn't be surprised if in a lot of cases they're able to still take it from you, even if you got the drop on them. You got to be willing to start blazing away. Fluke Man says if a white and black person got attacked, BLM would have the white person got off lightly because of his whiteness. That's what they would have suggested. And Doc says if you ever watch group attacks, if you smash a leader, generally the followers run. Yeah, but yeah, situational awareness, not even there. Not even there. And that just makes no sense to me. I don't understand that. But you won't see that in regular news. They're not going to be talking about it. That's local news. And Zane says, remember, everyone here, a gun is not going to defend you. Yeah, it's a tool. You've got to be willing to use it. And you've got to be aware. Here's something that you should have all seen coming. And this comes from The Messenger. The Messenger is the news site, and it says, LA landlords issue 50,000 eviction notices after C-virus protections have expired. And it says over 90% of Los Angeles tenants were given 3 days to get out of their homes, but the city is offering more help. Aww, isn't that sweet? So how is it we're in a position, before I even read this, that there's more than 50,000 eviction notices being issued because the C-virus exemption has expired that was mandated? Because they haven't been paying their rent all this time. That's why. And the landlords want them the hell off the property now. Tenants in the Hollywood neighborhood were handed the most eviction notices in Los Angeles after protections introduced during the C-virus pandemic lapsed earlier this year. Those living in the 90028 zip code received 3,585, the most for any LA neighborhood out of a nearly 50,000 notices accounted for, because, of course, they would know these numbers because you have to petition the court for an eviction notice, according to new data released by LA's city controller, Kenneth Mejia, on Monday. Other top neighborhoods affected by eviction since pandemic-era protections lapsed in April included Fairfax, Westlake, and the Jewelry District in downtown LA. The main reason behind the evictions is non-payment of rent. You think? A total of nearly $186.5 million went unpaid so far this year. The majority owed landlords at least $2,000. For many renters, time to collect their belongings and leave was limited. 91% of the notices gave just 3 days. Figures come a week after the city of Los Angeles announced an emergency rental assistance program for those struggling to pay because of unemployment, a reduction in income, or incurred significant costs. Where's that money going to come from? Landlords will get up to 6 months of unpaid rent with a chance to also apply for assistance from the city. Quote, we must do more to keep people housed, and I want to make sure eligible Angelinos begin applying today for rent relief for back rent owed during the C-virus pandemic, or if you currently experience short-term hardship, Mayor Karen Bass said in a press release. No one else, just Angelinos, huh? Why are you singling out Angelinos? Why just people from south of the border? You're not going to let other people have that opportunity? Because that's what that feels like. That's what that feels like. That's more tax money down the drain, folks. Keisha says, I don't understand people not paying their rent. That's the first thing I pay. Got to have a place to live. Because they were given a free pass and they let it lapse because it got easier and easier. The more you give people a handout, the more they're going to take. Now, everything is expiring and they haven't paid in months or longer. And the landlords are like, get the hell off my property. Get out. And the city's answer to this is to give them an even longer pass. Oh, we'll pay some of the rent for you just to keep them housed so they don't end up on the streets. What they really want is them in those 15-minute cities that all of these tech giant billionaires are building in San Francisco and in that farmland that they bought up. That's where they want everybody to end up. Zane says, if a guy with a steak knife gets the drop on you, I don't care if you have a full auto AR, you are not winning most of the time. Yeah, something I demonstrated on Prepper University in a video once upon a time, because I've seen some really interesting knife demonstrations. And I showed a video of that from 10 feet. In this video, this guy got the drop on someone drawing a knife. It was a police officer drawing a pistol, and I showed the video clip. This was a few years back. Got the drop on him from 10 feet with a knife right across the side of his throat. Where are we here? Urban says, imagine how many small condo owners went broke because the basement tenant wasn't paying rent and they couldn't kick them out and get a paying tenant. Exactly. Helter says, funny how politicians never consider lowering taxes to reduce the cost of living. Their answer is always more taxes or a redistribution of income. One would be lucky to keep half of what you earn. And Dilo says they'd probably try to put them in FEMA camps next. Yeah, really. Y says, from the government dictionary, assistance means enabling. Exactly. And Flukeman says, California stop overtaxing people would be a good start. Yeah, it would. Yeah, it would. Doc says, you will own nothing and be happy. Yeah, we've all heard that. We all heard that. And Doc says, 21-foot rule does apply in confrontation. But yeah, surprise, folks. They're starting to throw them out. They're starting to throw them out. Had to happen sooner or later, didn't it? Didn't it? As we continue on here. And that's a damn shame. That's a damn shame that that's what we're down to here. As we move on to New York. What's going on in New York? Well, you can imagine, because they've got the migrant crisis, and it's gotten so bad now, they're deploying the National Guard. It says National Guard deployed in New York to tackle migrant crisis as senator called out for destroying the city. And this is from GB News. GB News. And some interesting points about this as we read in. New York will bring in 150 members of the National Guard to help the city tackle the escalating migrant crisis. They're illegal immigrants, ladies and gentlemen, not migrants. A Democratic governor has announced as many as 100,000 migrants have been received into the city, with around 10,000 arriving every month. The 150 guards will be added to the 2,200 already deployed across the state to help control the surge in migrant numbers. In a statement on Monday, Democratic New York Governor Kathy Hochul announced 250 members of the force will be assigned to full-time case management in a bid to tackle the backlog of paperwork. Now, here's what I'm taking out of this. Number one, they're headlining National Guard deployed in New York to tackle migrant crisis. All right, that's cute. But you're acting like this is brand new. You're just adding 100. Well, first it says 150 here, then it says 250 down here. Which number is correct? This is a badly laid out news story. Second of all, if there's already 2,200 of them deployed in New York State because of this, you've already been doing this and you're just adding to those numbers. So there's nothing new going on here. You've already got close to 2,500 now National Guardsmen doing what? Acting as social workers, because it says full-time case management. Full-time case management. You know, I'm pretty sure that when most people joined the National Guard, they did not think they were going to be social workers. I figured that most guardsmen thought that they would be deployed overseas in an emergency, or maybe sent to a disaster zone like an earthquake or a flood and fill sandbags, or pass out water, help clean messes, help organize people and prevent looting, things like this. Full-time case management means social workers. That is a gross misuse of the National Guard. And again, you're acting like this is new, and you've been doing this if there's already 2,200 of them in the streets, filling out paperwork for you. Tackle backlog of paperwork. Oh, that's fantastic. The announcement comes just days after the Hochul U-turn on her opinion that New Yorkers should stop being bigoted and accept migrants by saying, if you're going to leave your country, go somewhere else. Exactly. Can't handle it, huh? That's too bad. That's too bad. As I catch up some of these comments, excuse me. DIY says, what are your thoughts on less lethal launchers for home defense? It depends on what the circumstances are. I mean, you can use less lethal force, like beanbag cannons and rock salt shotguns, and there's some interesting ammunition you can put in paintball guns, actually, if that's what you want to do. But if it's full-blown SHTF, I wouldn't dick around with that, because if you drive someone off, they're just going to come back, and they might have friends. Urban says, whatever is happening in New York is happening exactly according to plan. Preparedness says, Chicago are proposing a vote to welcome migrants. You couldn't make this stuff up. Yeah. Urban says, step 1, move in the military. Step 2, never move out the military. Indeed. Dragon says, those pro-migrant protesters are activists and lobbyists. Activism is a serious problem when they're advocating for your destruction at your expense because they've never known a single hardship. Exactly. Johnny says, I always am looking around me everywhere I walk, even in populated stores, all the time. Following up on that video clip. Zane says, most major cities are banjaxed today. Flukeman says, AOC tried to make a speech about helping migrants but lost her concentration when New Yorkers constantly booted her. They're tired of hearing it, because they're the ones that are suffering under it. They're the ones that have to deal with it. They'll have to look at it. They have to fight with these people, chase them out of the stores. They're the ones that are paying for it with their taxes. Wise says, enable mass migration to big cities, push Russia towards nuclear war, finally finish the depopulation plan for profit. Doc says, I can see now the 504th PsyOps group gets deployed because New York can't deal with their migrant problem. Pretty much. Monkey said, imagine wanting to sign up for National Reserves and expecting to be the weekend soldier, ends up dealing with illegal immigrants signing some paperwork to be able to get a job. Yeah, it's ridiculous. And Bingo says they got to go, and they'll see the playback. Thank you for joining us today. Much appreciated. But this is a gross misuse of the National Guard, and it's a shame. I can understand if things were bad enough that you needed to put them on the street for security purposes, which you're at that point anyways. But to fill out paperwork, to process people that aren't vetted anyways, are you going to send them back where they came from? You need to. You need to. But at the same time, hello, kitty. Hello, buddy. Everybody cat break real quick. Here's our little friend. How you doing? Good boy. He's a good boy. You're a good boy, aren't you? That was your cat break. At the same time, they're saying too much, we can't handle it, get the hell out of New York. And at the same time, New York is sitting there professing that they're going to start throwing them out of the shelters and telling them not to come here anymore. Guess what's been uncovered? New York Post. New York City now preparing to spend a staggering extra $1 billion on hotels alone to shelter the migrants for 3 more years. Oh, get off the microphone. Excuse me, technical difficulties, ladies and gentlemen. Come on, kitty, sit down. So we're throwing them out. We can't handle anymore. The city's mad at us. The people are screaming and yelling and protesting. We're strained to the limit with tax dollars. We're begging the government for money. Here's another $1 billion for hotel rooms. Reading the article. Hey, don't chew on that. Come on, kitty, you're doing too much. Sorry, we're having technical difficulties here. There we go. New York City is preparing for the worst, extending its contract with local hotels to help house migrants for up to 3 more years at a staggering added cost of more than $1 billion. And the revised contract's projected new total is $1.365 billion, $1,365 million price tag, 5 times what the original deal called for, would just pay for the rental fees to more than 100 hotels that have been converted into emergency migrant shelters. It does not include the cost of city facilities and other rented sites housing homeless asylum seekers pouring into the Big Apple by the thousands every week. Critics, including even some Democrats, raged that the Adams administration contract with the New York City Hotel Association, which is set to be extended from this year through August of 2026, reeked of taxpayer giveaway. Quote, "Why are we extending this contract for 3 years? It sends the message of not wanting to reduce the migrant population," said Nicole Galinas, a senior fellow with the Manhattan Institute. Galinas said the city created one big monopoly by giving the hotel industry an overcharging contract without competing bids that could have lowered costs. Yeah, and again, I pointed that out. These, wherever you have, and we saw this yesterday in the UK, wherever you have the state paying for these hotels, they're overpaying. They didn't even take bids. They're overpaying. Democratic Queens Councilman Robert Holden seethed. The migrant crisis has evolved into a financial boondoggle with quietly extended contracts fattening the pockets of a few at the taxpayer's expense. Big words from someone who doesn't get much done. Oh, Doc Galt says he's got to run. Thanks for joining us today. Delo says it would be cheaper to send them back home. And that's my argument. That's what I've been saying all along. It would be cheaper to charter flights as deep into South America as you can go and pay off some official at an airport like Peru or Ecuador or somewhere to just let them off the planes and put them out somewhere. And they would do it. They love grift down there. Fluke Man says Trump says he's going to do the biggest deportation in U.S. history. I'd like to see that. Johnny says no place is immune, but when you live in or near big liberal cities like I do, it's vital to be aware of your surroundings. It doesn't hurt to lock your car door even while at a stoplight. That's the first thing you should do when you approach your vehicle. You should always look around your vehicle real quick to make sure there's no obstructions. You should look in your back seat. And when you get in your vehicle, you should lock it immediately before you start your car. Preparedness says they should at least do what they do to students and make them pay back these costs. Won't happen. And Michael Ghost says, search up Chicago migrants. Alderman calls for more transparency on migrant spending. Sure, it won't happen. Big Shooter says $1 billion, says Dr. Evil. 1.365. And Urban says, I wonder if the hotel owners got a sweet deal on the flip side. They seem surprisingly quiet on the issue. These hotels get trashed and have to have rooms fully renovated and even need more restoration. And again, that doesn't count other housing expenses, and it does not count food. It does not count clothing. It does not count medical expenses, so on and so forth. That's just for the rooms. Fluke Man says hotels in England kicked out some guests that were already paid for the shelter to shelter illegal immigrants. Yeah, I've been hearing about that happening because the contract from the government is more than what they normally get paid. Preparedness says taxpayers should take over. It's pretty obvious by now the administrators are incapable and corrupt. That's technically what's supposed to have founded this country in the first place, taxation without representation. And that's where we are now. Urban says, you just answered my question. Okay. And Dragon, as I continue on, says New York City has zero money. The correct headline is New York City Dems are going to screw everyone who earns money, pay taxes, or spend money in New York City to pay for illegals. Congratulations, voters of New York City and America. And they still don't learn. They still don't learn. They still go right back for more abuse. Y says par for the course with the government. The purpose is always to take your money and give it to their friends. And preparedness says by air or sea, dump them in the ocean. Yeah, okay. Dump them in the ocean. And Y says the purpose of government always seems to end up being to take your money and give it to their friends, give it to somebody. But that's a very shady contract, although shady contracts in New York, especially if they have anything to do with unions, are no surprise, shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. Shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. And I'll give you one more huge pet peeve of mine. You already know how I feel about this. Cruising, you still in here today? I know Cruising was watching earlier. This comes from the Associated Press. And it says, more schools are adopting 4-day weeks. For parents, the challenge is day 5. That's it, just day 5. Why? Because they don't want to be around their rotten, nasty kids that they hate anyways. I always make that argument. Most parents are not parents. They're roommates to their children. They do not know their children. They do not like their children. They will never admit it because that's embarrassing, but they'll never admit it. The parents don't know them, or the parents don't know the kids. The kids don't know the parents. They send them off to school. They're like a roommate. Go to school, come back, go to your room, eat a TV dinner. What was your name again? And then they wonder why the kids don't listen to them. This is why. And that not all parents. There are some good parents out there. Most parents I've ever seen, this is the case. Independence, Missouri. It's a Monday in September, but with schools closed. The 3 children in Prunte household have nowhere to be. Callahan, 13, contorts herself into a backbend as 7-year-old Hudson fiddles with a balloon and 10-year-old Keegan plays the piano. I don't care about that. Life, like a growing number of students around the U.S., the Prunette children are on a 4-day school schedule, to a change instituted this fall by the district in Independence, Missouri. To the kids, it's terrific. I have a 3-day break of school, exclaimed Hudson, but their mom, Brandy Prunette, who teaches French in a neighboring district in suburban Kansas City, is frustrated to find herself hunting for activities to keep her kids entertained and off electronics while she works 5 days a week. That's all your kids do anyway, sweetheart, okay? Hundreds of school systems around the country have adopted 4-day weeks in recent years, most in rural and western parts of the U.S. Districts cite cost savings and advantages for teacher recruitment, although some have questioned the effects on students who already missed out significant learning during the pandemic. They weren't learning anything before the pandemic. They're not learning anything now. Giving them a 4-day work week, who cares? They're not learning anything anyways in most cases. What difference does it make? What the hell difference does it make? Urban, talking about the last subject here, says if the hotels are able to overcharge, then that's the scheme. Exactly. It reminds me of Canadian universities continually increasing foreign student numbers because the colleges can make more money. And Zane says, true, very true. I've seen this. And Keisha says, such animosity at kids. LOL. I feel bad for the kids, actually. I'm not angry at the kids. They're growing up in poor structure, and they're going to pass on that generational curse because that's always going to feel normal to them. The Jericho says, I would love to have an extra day with my kids. A 4-day school week would be sweet for me, at least. I know most parents hate their kids. I love mine. I'm glad you do. Glad you do. Helter says, if schools are going on a 4-day week, maybe jobs need to operate on a 4-day work week as well. Yeah, but you can't control which day you're going to fall on. And the school's always going to be on a schedule. You won't. Johnny says, either the parents try to be the child's friend, it doesn't work, and the child will never respect you. And Moki is here, coming in kind of late. Noir says, can you please comment on your McDonald's short video you posted, how McDonald's changed over the years? Yeah, I did a short on that. And McDonald's, it used to be like this interesting, it was interesting to look at, and it was child oriented, and it had Ronald statues, and it had seats that were shaped like hamburgers and all kinds of stuff like this. And it was someplace you wanted to bring your kids. Even as an adult, you were nostalgic for it yourself, and you wanted to bring them there and have a good time. Now it looks like a subway terminal. It looks like when you sit down at McDonald's, you're waiting for the train. It's sterile, it's quiet. They got kiosks up. They don't want to serve you anymore. They want you to go to the kiosk. It's uninviting in there. Like I said, it's quiet. Everything is white and gray, and there's no pictures on the wall. Anything Ronald McDonald or McDonald Land is just gone. And they don't want you hanging around in there anymore. They got rid of the child friendly bit when they were trying to compete with Starbucks, and that's when they started the McCafe garbage, which their coffee is terrible, by the way, and put the copper roofs on all of the buildings to make them look like coffee houses and such. And now it's just so miserable in there. It's like, why would I even want to be in McDonald's anymore? And that's kind of what I was talking about. I was like, look at this place. Why would you want to hang around in here? Why would you want to? This isn't a restaurant anymore. They may as well just get rid of the seats and turn it into like how the direction that Pizza Hut went into. Remember, Pizza Hut used to be this great, it had arcade machines, and it had a low lit atmosphere, and you sit there with the kids and you'd eat your pizza and whatever. And now it's like pickup only. They don't want you in there anymore. It's really just, it just sucks now. As I try to wrap up here because we're at the top of the hour. And Anarchy, you're so late. He says hi from Minnesota. And Keisha says McDonald's is too expensive now. Yeah. And I don't see how, because they keep replacing their employees with kiosks and robots. They get a robot filling the drinks at the drive-through. They're experimenting with bringing Flippy into McDonald's. And if you don't know, that's the machine that handles the flipping the burgers. It operates the griddle, and it operates the they got another one that does the fryer for you. And Bam says Happy Meal is great for prepping due to its 100-year shelf life. Yeah, there you go. And Zane says the problem is most kids not because they want to, but because they feel like they have to have them. Well, not so much that they have to have them, but it's not what they expected. Most parents will sit there, and I know I'm running over my time, but that's okay. Just to make the point, this is the argument. Parents will sit there. Many of them love to tell you about their sacrifice. So I gave up this for my kids. I gave up that for my kids. I couldn't do this and that. If you're looking at it as a sacrifice, you're not a parent. Okay? Because you will always see that child as someone who took something from you that you deserved. I was one of those kids. Heard it from my mother all the time. It's because of you. I can't do this and this and this and this. Okay, fine. You don't want me. I get it. At least she admitted it. Told me I wasn't wanted, but all these other parents, and they sit there and they pretend to love their kids, pretend everything they do is for, everything I do is for my kids. It's all for my kids. But you watch how they are with their kids, and you watch the disrespect, and you watch the distance between them, and you know it's all a lie. Again, there are good parents out there. There are good kids out there, but there's more that are part of that generational curse where having kids means they're just there. And they don't appreciate the kids. They don't see them as an extension. Two people got together and created a child. That's a piece of you. You don't love yourself enough to love the child. I got to tell you, I could go on and on and on, but you get the point. Zane says the robots took the jobs. True. And Zane says he doesn't remember Pizza Hut like that. That's going back some ways. Pizza Hut, it's been like 20 years at least. Some Pizza Huts still have a sit down, and there's a handful, very, very few that still have the buffet going. The Pizza Hut buffet used to be a big deal. Yeah, there you go. Zane says, do you know how much I sacrificed from Spider-Man? From Spider-Man. Do you know how much I sacrificed? Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and sign off for the day. That was my rant. I could go on and on and on that. Yeah, there you go. Zane says the Green Goblin. Correct. He did a great job on that. He's a good actor. But I'm going to go ahead and sign off. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I will remind you that if you are listening and not watching, this is Coffee Talk. And so it is at Coffee Talk Live on YouTube or Prepper University on YouTube, as well as fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta Monday through Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and Friday at noon. Correct, Willem Dafoe. Couldn't think of the name off the top of my head. And Johnny says robots already do shelf inventory at Walmart. Yeah, they do. They do the shelf inventory, and they got rid of the floor cleaners and they replaced them with Zambonis that are self-operating. And remember, I myself have been replaced by a robot. When I worked at Frito-Lay, I was replaced by robots. So there you go. It happens, folks. It is happening, and those people are not going on to better tech jobs like so many are convinced is happening. But thanks for joining us, and we will catch you again tomorrow.